Welcome to our channel, where we bring the most bone-chilling stories from the depths of Reddit's darkest corners. Join us as we explore the eerie tales that keep you up at night. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications to never miss a spine-tingling story.
My name is Sarah. I work as an overnight security guard at the vast and sprawling Hamilton Museum of History and Anthropology. They house everything from medieval suits of armour to relics of ancient civilizations. It's normally quiet, the perfect job for a night owl like me. I usually spent my time wandering the quiet, dimly lit hallways, sometimes reading books or watching the cameras on my handheld monitor. The museum had just acquired a new exhibit from a dig site in Egypt. It was an ornate sarcophagus from the Ptolemaic period, beautifully decorated, rumoured to belong to an ancient sorcerer who dabbled in dark arts. There were whispers of a curse, but I scoffed at such notions, dismissing them as dramatic tales spun by our curator to attract a crowd. But that was before the dream started. The first dream was vivid. I was walking the halls of the museum when a soft chanting echoed through the air, drawing me towards the new exhibit. In front of the sarcophagus, I saw a figure. It was a man, dressed in ancient Egyptian clothes, his eyes ablaze with an otherworldly light. He reached out towards me, his voice resonating in my head. "Seeker, you have awakened me. Your journey begins." I woke up with a start, beads of sweat trickling down my forehead. Disoriented, I glanced at the clock. It was 3 a.m., the dreaded witching hour. I shrugged it off as a mere nightmare, the result of too much late-night television. The next day at work, I felt a strange compulsion to visit the new exhibit. As I stood before the sarcophagus, I could swear it vibrated slightly, the beautifully painted eyes seeming to stare into my soul. Shaken, I quickly left the room, attributing my unease to the remnants of the dream. That night, the dream returned. The figure was more insistent, more real. He introduced himself as Neferti, a high priest and sorcerer who had been betrayed and entombed alive. He implored me to free him, to break the curse that kept his spirit trapped within the sarcophagus. Each night, the dreams grew more intense, the figure more tangible. I started to dread sleep, the line between my dreams and reality becoming increasingly blurred. At work, the sarcophagus seemed to draw me in, Neferti's pleas echoing in my mind. One night, under the sway of the dreams, I found myself standing in front of the sarcophagus, my hand reaching out to touch the cold, hard surface. As I touched it, a jolt of energy shot through me, and I saw flashes of Neferti's life, his power, his betrayal, his curse. I recoiled in shock, my heart pounding in my chest. This couldn't be happening. It had to be my imagination. I was just a security guard, not some protagonist in a supernatural thriller. But the dreams didn't stop. The sarcophagus seemed to have a hold over me, the boundary between my waking and sleeping hours disintegrating. I grew tired, my days consumed by thoughts of Neferti and his curse. I needed help. I couldn't do this alone. So I turned to the only person who might believe me, Dr. Simmons, the museum's resident Egyptologist. Dr. Simmons was an older man, steeped in years of research and academic pursuits. When I approached him with my story, he looked at me skeptically, but agreed to listen. As I narrated my dreams and my encounters with the sarcophagus, his skepticism waned, replaced with a growing interest. He admitted that the sarcophagus was indeed that of a high priest named Neferti, who was rumoured to be a practitioner of forbidden arts and was punished by entombment. Though not entirely convinced, he agreed to help me. We spent countless hours poring over ancient texts, trying to decipher the symbols adorning the sarcophagus, hoping to find a way to break the curse. The symbol of a chained spirit repeatedly appeared in Neferti's scriptures, likely symbolising his entrapment. Sleep-deprived and running on copious amounts of coffee, we finally discovered an incantation that seemed promising. It spoke of appeasing the entombed spirit, releasing it from its earthly chains. Armed with this knowledge, we decided to conduct the ritual the following night. As the museum fell into its nightly silence, Dr. Simmons and I stood before the sarcophagus, our hearts heavy with apprehension. I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched, the painted eyes of Neferti boring into me. As we started chanting the incantation, the room grew colder, a sense of dread permeating the air. Suddenly, The sarcophagus started shaking, a low hum resonating from within. Then, with a burst of energy that knocked us off our feet, Neferti's spirit materialized in front of us. He was just as I had seen in my dreams, his form radiating an otherworldly light, his eyes filled with centuries of anger and betrayal. In ancient Egyptian he spoke, his voice resonating in my mind. "You have called upon me, Seeker. What is it that you desire?" I mustered the courage to reply, my voice trembling. "Neferti, we wish to free you from your earthly chains, to help you find peace." He studied us, his gaze piercing. Finally he nodded, his form flickering. "Very well. But remember, every freedom has a price." As we completed the incantation, a bright light engulfed Neferti, his figure convulsing as if in pain. Then, with an ear-piercing scream that echoed through the museum halls, he exploded into a myriad of lights, leaving us in sudden, deafening silence. The sarcophagus lay still, the painted eyes no longer eerie but lifeless. In the days that followed, my dreams of Neferti ceased. The sarcophagus lost its mystical allure, becoming just another artifact. It seemed like we had succeeded, that we had released Neferti from his curse. But his final words lingered in my mind. Every freedom has a price. A week after the ritual, I started to notice peculiar changes in the museum. The lights would flicker, displays would be moved or broken, and sometimes I would catch a shadow darting out of the corner of my eye. The surveillance cameras would malfunction, only to work perfectly when examined in the morning. I convinced myself it was my imagination, an after effect of the events. However, one night, as I was doing my rounds, I walked past the medieval exhibit and froze. The once polished suits of armour were tarnished, their metal surfaces pitted and corroded, as though aged by centuries overnight. A chill ran down my spine. This was not a trick of my mind. Something was terribly wrong. I ran to Dr. Simmons, relaying the strange occurrences. His face paled as he listened, his eyes reflecting a deep-rooted fear. He rushed to his office and started rummaging through his stacks of research. He finally pulled out an ancient text and flipped to a dog-eared page. His hands trembled as he read out an inscription. "He who unleashes the chained one shall bear witness to time unravelled." He turned to me, the colour drained from his face. "Sarah, I fear we've made a grave mistake. By freeing Neferti, we might have unleashed a temporal curse. His spirit was tied to time itself, and with the chains broken, time is unravelling." My heart pounded in my chest as the reality of our situation sank in. The museum was ageing rapidly, every artifact, every exhibit impacted by the temporal curse. If we didn't find a solution soon, the museum and everything in it would crumble into dust, including us. We threw ourselves back into research, desperate to find a counter-curse. We combed through every resource we had, reaching out to scholars around the world. The hours turned into days, the days into a week, the museum aging rapidly around us. The walls started to crack, the paintings fading. The once bustling museum, now a picture of decay. In our desperation, we discovered a forgotten incantation, one that might reverse the curse. It spoke of binding time, of restoring the balance disrupted. We had no time to waste. As the museum crumbled around us, we stood before the now ancient sarcophagus, chanting the incantation, praying for a miracle. The world around us started to warp, the air charged with raw energy. Just as the museum walls started to crumble, a blinding light engulfed us. Time seemed to stand still, then rewound with a force that knocked us off our feet. Then, everything went black. I woke up to the sound of Dr. Simmons calling my name. As my vision cleared, I saw him standing over me, his face filled with relief. We were in the museum, but it was no longer decaying. Everything was back to normal. The exhibits pristine, the walls intact. Relieved, we laughed, tears streaming down our faces. We had reversed the curse, saved the museum. However, the relief was tinged with fear. We had dabbled in something we barely understood, paid the price for it. We agreed to be more careful, to respect the relics and their histories. Since then, the museum has returned to its quiet routine. The sarcophagus of Neferti lies silent, the once vibrant paint now faded, a chilling reminder of our encounter with the ancient curse. As for me, I no longer scoff at the whispers of curses and spirits. After all, who better to understand the thin line between myth and reality than a security guard who spends her nights in a museum that once was at the mercy of a time curse?
If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please hit the like button and subscribe, as it means a lot, and hit the bell if you want to stay up to date with the latest scary stories. Don't forget to comment with any stories that you would like for me to do, and I will see you in the next one.